Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this poncho here. Now it's a very easy poncho, very quick to make, and it's great for a beginner as long as you know how to do a double and a single crochet. You'll be able to do this. So it's very basic with the V stitches, and then I did put a shell border on it. Of course you don't have to do that, or you could use some type of other border like fringe. For this particular poncho here, it is a 2-point poncho, one in the front, one in the back, but I only increased every other row, which made it not as pointy on the bottom. So the arm area here comes down longer. A lot of 2-point ponchos are a lot more pointy because I increase every row. This one I did every other, so it's a little bit more rounder at the bottom than a regular 2-point. And then the top, I just went around with some single crochet around the collar there to clean that up. But other than that, it's pretty basic. I actually like it. I think it looks good. Let me get a measurement on mine. Now with the poncho, to make it bigger or smaller, all you do is add or take away rows. You don't have to do anything different. Like the chain number I give you for the neck is the chain number that you keep no matter what size you're doing. As for an adult, just if you need it smaller, do less rows than I do. If you need it bigger, do more rows, as many as you'd like, or as less as you like, to make it fit the way that you want it to fit. Okay, so I'm going to do mine from the point of the neck down to the bottom of the shawl is about 26 inches. And then I'll do from arm to arm, I guess. I don't know. It's always hard to take a poncho from this corner to this corner, so that's what's laying on my arms there in the photo is 34 inches. All right, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll talk about the yarn that I used. All right, for this project I used, it's a hand-dyed yarn. It's by Yarn Snob Yarns. It's the Powerball. It is a 100% superwash merino. It is a medium weight number 4. There are 1,090 yards per ball, and the color I have is called Showstopper. Now you don't have to use this yarn. Any 4-weight yarn will work just fine. So out of almost 1,100 yards, this is what I have left. So you're going to need close to 1,100 yards, maybe 1,050, something like that, of a 4-weight yarn to make it the size that I did. Remember, if you're making it smaller, of course you'll need less, but if you're making it bigger, you will need more, or if you're going to add fringe, you'll need more as well. And then I'm going to be using a size I, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. All right, so we're going to be starting out with a big long chain, and then we're going to slip stitch together to form a big ring, which will be the neck. Now I highly advise against changing the stitch count of the neck because it stretches out as the poncho gets bigger. So you want to go ahead and start with a chain of 76. And when you get your chain of 76 done, you want to go ahead and follow it down without twisting your chain and slip stitch into the first stitch to form one large ring. Just like that. Alright, and we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go back into that same spot there and single crochet. Now we're going to work around, and we're going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch of the chain, just like this. So row 1 is this 1 single crochet in every stitch of your big ring until you get back to your starting point. Alright, so I've made it to the end of row 1, and you should have a total of 76 stitches since that's what we started with. And we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first single crochet. And now we're going to start the V stitches. Now, as I mentioned, there is 2 points. There's one in the back and one in the front. Now we're going to do the ones in the back a little bit different. Otherwise, what we're going to do it different so there's not going to be a seam. if we're not going to be doing any slip stitching like over like normally you would. By doing that, you create like a super long seam almost down the middle of your project, because every row you slip stitch over more and more and more. So we're going to eliminate that by doing the back side of the poncho a little bit different. So we're going to go ahead and do the first point. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to go back into this very first spot here that we just slip stitched into, and we're going to do a double crochet. Now, that is half of the first point, and we'll do the other half when we make it back around here, okay? Now we're going to skip 1 stitch and do a V-stitch into the next. So we're going to yarn, a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet all into the same stitch. So skip 1 and go into the next, and double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, just like that. And that's what we're going to repeat again. Skip 1, skip and V-stitch into the next, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, again skip 1, V-stitch into the next, which is a double, chain 1, and double. And you want to do this until you have 18 V-stitches. Don't count this first double crochet, but keep making V-stitches, skipping 1 stitch until you have a total of 18. And that's where I'll meet back up with you. So right now we have done 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so I've got my 18 V-stitches. Remember, we're not counting this first double crochet here. Now we're going to do the front point. So we're going to skip 1 stitch, skip this one, and we're going to go into the next one. We're going to do a double crochet, and then we're going to chain 2 for the point, and go back into the same spot and do a double crochet. So that is the front poncho point, just like that. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side that we just did over here. We're going to skip 1 and V-stitch into the next. So skip 1 and V-stitch into the next. Skip 1, V-stitch into the next. Skip 1, V-stitch into the next, and you should have 18 V-stitches when you make it to the end on this side, just like you did on this side. Alright, so I've come to the end here, and I have 18 V-stitches on this side, and not counting the point, and 18 on this side, not counting the point, and I have 1 stitch that remains. Now we have to finish out the point, the back point right here. Remember, we start with the back point, and when we finish, we end with the back point. So we're going to go back into that same stitch there that we put our first double crochet into. We're going to skip this last stitch and go back into this one and double crochet. Now, instead of doing a chain 2, we're going to put a half double crochet into the top of our first double crochet, just like that. Now that half double is going to act as our chain 2 space. Now we can start in the middle of this V-stitch, and we don't have to do any slip stitching over, so there will not be a seam running down the side of your work. Alright, so now we're going to start row 3. Rows 3 and 4 are the repeat rows, so it's a 2-row repeat, and the only difference is 1 row you increase and 1 row you don't. So we'll go ahead and start. Now the increases are done at the points, so we're gonna go ahead and start right here in this point, and we're going to do our first increase, but remember, we're only going to do half of it. So we're going to chain 1, which doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to go right back into this spot, and we're going to do a V-stitch. So right into this spot here, we're going to double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet back into that spot, just like that. Now we're going to jump to our next V-stitch right here, the chain 1 space, and we're going to put a V-stitch into that chain 1 space. So go right into it and do a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And this is what we're going to do in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch until we get to our next point. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. The next one, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. The next one, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So we're going to work a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch until we get down here to the front point of our poncho, and that where this chain 2 space is, and that is where I'll meet back up with you. Alright, so I've made it down here to our front point. Here is the V-stitch with the chain 2 space in it. So we're going to need to increase in this point. So we're going to work into the chain 2 space, and we're going to work a V-stitch. So a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And then we're going to chain 2. 1, 2, and we're going to go back into that same spot and work another V-stitch. So a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. So that is the increase. V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch. And now we're going to do the same thing over here that we just did over here by putting a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of every V-stitch from the previous row. So go right to your next V-stitch and do your double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then the next one, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And we're going to do this until we get to the end, and that's where I'll meet back up with you and I'll show you how to finish out that last increase. Alright, I'm coming to the end of row 3. So now we have to finish this point back here. We started it when we began the row, now we're going to finish it when we end the row. So we already have one V-stitch in it. So we're going to go back into the same spot and we're going to work another V-stitch because this is the increase row. So we do a double, chain 1, and a double. Now instead of doing the chain 2, we're going to go ahead and half double crochet into our first double crochet, and that will end row 3. And that half double is acting as our chain 2. So now at the end of row 3, if you count all your V-stitches, including the ones in the points, you'll have 20 on this side and 20 on this side for a total of 40 V-stitches. So why don't we go and start round 4, which is the final row of the repeat, and this is very similar to row 2. We just do not do any double, we don't do the increase here like the 2 V-stitches, we only do 1. So we are going to chain 1, which doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to go back into this spot right here and we're going to work 1 double crochet, just 1. And then when we get back around, we'll finish that out. Now we're going to jump to our next chain 1 space, the V-stitch right here, and work a V-stitch into that chain 1 space. Like that. And then the next one, a V-stitch into the next chain 1 space. And this is what we're going to do all the way, is a V-stitch into every chain 1 space until we get to the front point of our poncho. Just like that. Alright, so I've made it to my chain 2 space here at the front of my poncho, and I'm just going to go right into it and put 1 V-stitch into that spot. So double crochet, but we're going to chain 2. Chain 2 since it's the point, and then another double crochet. So that is the point. Now, we didn't put 2 V-stitches in, we only did 1. Now we are going to continue around doing the same thing on this side that we just did on this side, putting a V-stitch into the chain 1 space of every V-stitch from the previous row. So, and I'll meet back up with you when we get to the end over here. Alright, I'm coming to the end of row 4, and we're going to go ahead and finish out this point here. So we started with a double crochet in it. Now we're going to go out into the chain 2 space, and we're going to put 1 double crochet, and instead of a chain 2, we're going to end by putting a half double crochet into the very first double crochet, which counts as our chain 2 space. And that is it. You actually will have 2 more stitches to this row than you did the previous row. And then whenever you do the increase row where we put 2 V-stitches into each of the points, you'll have 4 more V-stitches than you did the previous row. So you just keep repeating rows 3 and 4 until you get to your desired length. So my last row I had 40 stitches around. This row where we only did the 1 V-stitch at the point, I have 42 now. The next row we will do the increase where we put 2 V-stitches in each point. So we'll have 46 around. And then you'll do the 1 V-stitch row, which will increase by 2. And then you'll do the 2 V-stitch row, which will increase your stitch count by 4. So you just keep doing that until you get it as long or as big as you'd like it to be. Alright, for mine, I did a total of 37 V-stitch rows. I didn't, not counting that first single crochet, but 37 V-stitch rows. I'm 5'3". You, as you can see in the picture where it lands on me, but you make yours as long or as short as you'd like. Just end on an odd number of rows of V-stitches. So then I put a border on it, which I'll show you how to do that now. It's just a simple shell border. You definitely don't have to do that. I think it would look cool with fringe at the V-stitches as well, or you can leave it plain, or you could put single crochet around it. But for the border, once I got my 37 rows repeating, my 3 and 4 repeats, I went ahead and I chained 1 once I was back at my starting point, like right here. And I went back into this chain space, and I worked 5 double crochets into this spot. So there's 1. This is the back point. 2, 3, 4, and there's 5. And then I put a single crochet into the next chain space of the next V. Single crochet. Like that. And then in the chain 1 space of the next V, I worked 5 double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's what I kind of repeated all the way around. Single crochet into the next V-stitch and 5 doubles into the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, singled into the next, 5 doubles into the next. And I just repeated this pattern all the way around until I made it back here to my starting point. Remember, this is optional. It's just what you see on mine. You don't have to do that. I will show you when you make it to your front point, it's not going to land whether you put a shell there. It's going to be a single crochet. And that helps to round out the front to make it look a little bit rounder and not so pointy. but just go ahead and continue around. You're not doing anything wrong if you don't land on a shell there. And if you do land on a shell there, that's fine too. But you shouldn't land on one. It should be a single crochet there. But as long as you come out even in the end, just keep doing the 5 doubles in one and then single into the next. And then 5 doubles in the next one and then single into the next until you make it back around to your starting point. And that is where I'll meet back up with you. Alright, when you make it back around, your last V-stitch should have a single crochet in it, and you want to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first double crochet of our where we put our first 5 doubles. And then you can tie that off and hide that tail. And that'll be it for that. Remember, yours will be much bigger. I'm just showing you on a smaller scale instead of having to show you with the big one. Alright, and then once you're finished with that, I went around the top here with single crochet. So I started on the back of my work and I did 2 rounds of single crochet at the top. You can do more, you can do less. You can just start anywhere back here you want and go ahead and pull your yarn through and then chain 1 and go back through the same stitch that you just started in and single crochet, and then just work around putting 1 single crochet in every stitch across the top all the way around. You should have 76 because that's what we started with. I'm going to hide these tails as I go. The less sewing the better, right? Alright, so yeah, just 1 single in every stitch all the way around the collar, and you'll have 76 stitches when you make it back around. If you don't have that number, as long as it's close, that's fine. And like I said, I did 2 rows of single crochet, so I just went around again and did another row of single crochet. I had 76 stitches, and I ended with a slip stitch into my first single crochet, and then I tied off and I hid all my tails, and then I was finished. And that is it, and this is what it will look like. So here's the 2 rows of single crochet at the top. Remember, more or less if you want. You can put a cowl neck on it if you want, or whatever you want to do. Collar, that'd be pretty. But that's it. It's very easy. It's very pretty. I like it a lot, and I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. Remember, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Here's the front. And don't forget to check out all my other tutorials that I have. I have over 1,000 tutorials. They're all free for you to enjoy. Hit that like button, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye, guys.